Good morning, happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Pitchlight Chronicles. I'm Uncle Tats, here with Donald, here with Rob, and the Yankees have finally finished rounding out their coaching hires, which I always think is a good thing before going into free agency, so players know what they're walking into. Brad Ausmus was tagged as the bench coach, and I think when you look at his coaching record, because I was diving a little into this, between the Tigers and with Oakland, he does have a losing record as a manager. But when you look at the organizations he was working for, I think the numbers are a little misguided. Detroit really wasn't trying to win when he was there, and we all know Oakland doesn't like to hold on to any of their talent. So with he's got 316 wins as a manager, 362 losses. Very misguided. It's really that was the word that came to my mind. I'm like, this it's unjust that people want to look at the bench coach being the second in command, because we all know Boone loves to get thrown out of games. Can he handle taking over for Boone? I think he's going to be just fine. And he was also I also found another tidbit. He was drafted by the Yankees in '87, and while in the minor leagues, went to school, and ended up getting grabbed by the Rockies during that expansion draft. So he does have. It's almost like coming home again, without really coming home, because he never really got major league playing time. But your initial reaction to Brad Ausmus as the bench coach, as minuscule, the bench, it's not like he's the manager. We all wish it was somebody other than Bone. But how do you guys feel? Like, what was your initial reaction? Was it good, bad, not really that big of a deal?
I don't think it's a big deal. It's a bench coach. He's got experience, and it's better than the last two guys we've hired, right? I don't think Mendoza really had a lot of experience, and I actually had a hard time remembering who our bench coach before Mendoza was. It was Bard. I forgot who they were. You don't really remember the certain names. Like, we remember Pena, we remember Zimmer, obviously, but I don't put too much stock into it. I'm just glad that he has experience as a manager. You think about that Angels team in 2019, Ohtani was hurt. He wasn't able to pitch. There may have been a closer to 500 team if he had been healthy. Tigers didn't do him any favors. And I'm not going to look at Oakland was literally trying to lose last year. And he wasn't a bench coach or anything. He wasn't doing too much there. He was with the team that was actively trying to lose. So I won't use that against him. I'm just glad that there's experience on the bench with Aaron Boone. And the same thing when we hired Rosen as the hitting coach. We're not going to MLB Network and ESPN analysts anymore. We're going to actual guys that have coached to bring to our coaching staff. So instead of the Dylan Lawsons of the world, and I know Sean Casey was a former player, but he wasn't a coach. Now we're bringing in guys that have been around several teams, have been there, done that. Ausmus's manager record isn't great, but he's at least been around a clubhouse. He knows how to operate it. I don't think it's a bad thing at all.
I'm all right with it. I'm fine with it. I mean, his first season for Detroit, he went 90-72, and they were first in the AL in 2014. Second year didn't go too well. Third year, he got them back in the playoffs, 86-75 record. So 2 of his 4 years, he was, he had a winning record with Detroit, which is not easy to do because Detroit are perennially awful. Angels, not great, but when have the Angels ever been good? I don't know. It's fine. He's got managerial experience. Now, I know analytics is the bad word, really. But at the end of the day, he has experience in applying it to managing. He did it in Detroit. He said so. I've watched his interviews. He's very much an advocate for for it, and you know that Cashman would have loved that. But hey, he's got experience applying it to managing, and that's not a bad thing. Even though analytics is quote unquote the bad word, he has experience in applying it, which is only going to help us because we're so bad at applying it, right? So maybe he can help us do that properly. Listen, if he's there's a chance he could be manager next year.
It could be an audition for him.
Yeah, it could be an audition for him, and we'll see what happens. But listen, if Boone was fired and we hired Ausmus, I wouldn't care either. You know what I mean? It's like it'd been fine. It's not exciting. I'm not going to say I'm like, whoa, but because it's a bench coach.
Yeah.
Everyone knows how involved he's going to be as a bench coach, but his experience can only help, right? And Boone has now another ear that he can lend his experience to. That's a good thing. We'll just see. We'll see how it works. I prefer him to Aaron Boone. I do. I much prefer him to Aaron Boone. So, because he's got experience, and as even though it's funny to say, it's true though. At least he has experience. My God, as Rob says, we've been going with analysts for ages. Why not just go with someone who actually has managerial experience?
I think that's what moves the needle is the experience factor, not so much the all the other tangibles that can come into play, because it's not like it's him being on the staff is not moving the needle for the Yankees overall. I think that's a given, but I think a former manager, and like you guys said, not from the booth, not from the TV. It's somebody that's been in the trenches. I think that can be a factor. Like I said, Boone likes to get thrown out of games. So if you have to hand the clipboard over, I'd rather it be somebody that's been in the trenches with some of these teams.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the organizations that have hired him in the past have not been, world beaters. But that experience factor, I think, that's the focal point. And he could be the guy next year. If Boone really falls off the mat, and he's too busy, like Brad says, making muffins and cupcakes and taking naps with everybody, at least we know somebody's going to be asleep at the wheel, awake at the wheel, rather, and guiding everybody along.
Somebody else will be asleep at the wheel. Actually, that should be it as it is. That's perfect. It sums the Yankees up perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to really dive into with Ausmus other than just, the coaching staff is now, is now tightened up. We know who's going to be in charge of what. I prefer going before signing any of the big agents, really going into the official offseason, making moves, whether it's free agency or trade. Players like to know they're going to a place for stability. And as unstable as the Yankees are, as far as their mentality towards, the World Series, they really don't care. As long as they get, as long as they go above 500, as long as they make the postseason, which is a crapshoot, and as long as they can bunt, that's what the Yankees care about. So I think having somebody like Ausmus can, I think it's going to benefit the dugout, not so much the overall, but it's going to be I think it's going to be a healthier dugout, better mentality.
To answer Mr. Barros's statement, yes, Brad Ausmus was a very good catcher. He had 1,141 games at catcher. So he very good catcher over a long period of time, and had solid success in the major leagues. Anyone who knew the era of the 90s would know Ausmus very, very well. I always respected him. I always thought he was a very solid major leaguer. And also, what I like is I like catchers who become managers because they know the game very, very, very well. We've seen it before, and we've seen it with Joe Girardi. So I think it benefits us. I like catchers become managers a lot more than really bad third basemen becoming managers.
Well, I think it's important to remember that because remember when we had two catchers, what was Gary Sanchez's best year? 2017. Yeah. And then when we didn't have a catcher on the coaching staff, what happened to him? He fell apart. So I think Brad brought it up, and going back to what my dad said, having a good catcher, it can't be a bad thing for you trying to bring up a guy like Austin Wells to be the future behind the plate. That can only be a good thing. So I think it's a great move. And when you think about that, and you put it into that perspective and how much getting rid of Pena screwed Gary Sanchez up and the way they went about their business, getting another catcher onto the staff, a good one at that, when Austin Wells' issue, and a lot of our guys in our system, their biggest issue is the defense. A lot of our guys are good offensive catchers, but they got to work on the defense, and Austin Wells is one of those guys. Having Ausmus around can help him out there. And if they really want Wells to be the guy behind the plate, and I think they do, he showed me a lot last year in the small sample size. The bat came alive at the end. The glove was fine. He caught a really good game every time he was out there. You get Ausmus to work with him immediately, and you can turn this guy into a legitimate catcher in the major leagues, and you got your future right there at one of the most important positions. So I like it. I really do. I don't care about his managerial record because he's not the manager. If he becomes a manager, when or if he becomes a manager, then we can worry about his record. But I think it's very important to know that he has experience as a catcher, because that's going to really help a guy like Austin Wells and any other of the young kids we have coming up at that position.
Well, you had some good coaches, and Brad's right here. Really, Cashman did screw up getting rid of Tony Pena. He also screwed up by not hiring Rob Thompson when he had the opportunity. I would still take that coaching staff to this day over whatever the Yankees have on offer right now. Rob Thompson went on to be a very, very good manager, and Aaron Boone is somehow clinging onto a job purely because he's a nice guy, and people always stand up for nice. But Rob Thompson has the chops for it. He really does. And he has the Yankee lore. He knows the Yankees inside out. Which does kind of help. It really does help, especially when you're holding people to an account, to a standard of the Yankees. You need a manager or someone on the coaching staff that has that experience, knowing what it means to wear the Yankees pinstripes.
Yeah, no, I think that if you had the combo of like Pena and Thompson, during this era, these last few years, I think the landscape of the Yankees is completely different. Which is why, like I said, it's not like Ausmus is going to come in and just be a savior, but at least it's a non-analytical guy as far as like what we said, the TV booth type of guy. He hasn't been just sitting in the Yankee organization being, corrupted by their, flawed philosophy. He just got stuck getting jobs with bad teams trying to make it work. This might be the best spot for him to just kind of take a step back as a bench coach and get into an organization that has a youth movement that an organization wants to hold on to, as opposed to when he got screwed by the A's. When they just got rid of everybody. Texas Tigers have fallen off. The Angels, their owner never knew how to spend the money properly. Wasted Trout's career. So he hasn't had the best of luck with some of these organizations. You could also say, well, what better luck would he have with Alan Cashman? But it is what it is. We'll have to see what happens. Before we dive any further, just remember, tap that heart in the bottom corner of your screen. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe. Share this video out. Donald, it is time for roll call. When you hear your name, raise your hand, say here. So, Donald, let's get the roll call going.
Brad June is in attendance. Yes, he is. Hi, Brad. How are you, my guy? NFE. Well, of course, NFE. Dev Cashman is jackass. Yeah, he sure is. TC Steels. Sup, TC? How are we? NFE. We got Anthony Garcia. We got Rob Dad. Yo. And FJ, salute. Stevie B, salute. Jonathan, salute. Salute. Everybody hit the like button and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. We love you. Much love. And happy Thanksgiving to all when it comes.
I had asked this question Monday night on the After Dark show. I want to ask you guys this question. Now, Yamamoto is officially posted, right? We did a quick roundabout with me, Sunil, and we had Chris Rodriguez with us, Chris the Flash. So there's 45 days for Yamamoto to negotiate his contract. Otherwise, he goes back to Japan for a year. From day one, obviously day one is passed, to day 45. What day do you think he gets signed?
According to Morosi, he's going to probably sign by the end of the winter meetings.
That's usually in December, like middle of December, right?
Yeah.
I think it's like a month.
I think it'll be earlier than that. I think it'll be 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to wait too long. Because I mean, if he goes to 40, if he goes to like day 44, he's not doing himself any favors, because then he's got to worry about, where am I moving to? Where am I going to stay? And obviously he's got to get ready for spring training and all that. Like, Tanaka signed pretty quickly. When he signed with us, I think Senga signed pretty early in the offseason as well last year. So I would be surprised if it went past December. So I'll say, yeah, maybe 3 weeks max, like 20 days. I think he'll be signed by then. Before Christmas, for sure, I think. Well,
Chris's guess was 15. It was 15 days. So Neil said 16. I said 22. I think it's because of there's a lot of teams in the mix. I think it's going to take that third week for him to make a decision. But I say in the 2 week mark, he's narrowed it down to 2 or 3 teams. The other factor is the other question that we had asked. We know the Yankees are involved. We know the Mets are going to be involved. If you had a third team that you had to compete with, what is the other team the Yankees you feel have to compete with in negotiations?
Boston.
The Mets.
No, you said a third team, right? Like Yankees, Mets, and who?
Yes, you have the Yankees, the Mets, and if you had another team that's going to be able to really be a competitive negotiator,
yeah,
I said the Cubs.
I say the Phillies.
Red Sox, Phillies, Cubs. Those are all like the logical choices, because Boston wants him badly. The Cubs want him badly. The Phillies still want pitching, even though they gave Nola a ton of money. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, those are probably the obvious teams. But if we want to go like outside of the box, like what's a dark horse team that could jump in there? Like I wouldn't be surprised if San Francisco goes in there and gets them.
Somebody mentioned Arizona on Monday night as a dark horse, as a team that nobody's really talking about as somebody, a team willing to get the pitching. And I thought that was interesting too. Mr. Barrows is saying Baltimore.
do they want to spend though? Because their owner last year said he doesn't want to spend money.
Yeah,
Like he just said it. Like in the middle of their best season, he's like, "Yeah, we don't really want to spend that much money." So I don't know what they're gonna
That's
do there.
crazy.
I would say somewhere from the West, the NL West, like San Francisco or Arizona could be that dark horse team because San Francisco has missed out on like every big free agent the last few years. They've always come second. I think they need one. So whether that's Bellinger or Yamamoto, I think they're going to go all in for somebody, and it might be one of those two guys because they want to beat the Yankees for somebody because they thought they had Arson Judge from us, but they didn't.
Well, they got Arson. They didn't get Aaron.
Yeah, they got Arson.
but I don't know. Quick side note, I don't know if you heard on the Fan, they had John Heyman on with Tiki and Roberts. He was actually making fun. He was making fun of himself about the Arson Judge. So he's, I thought that was kind of funny. He was like, he goes, it's not so much about me making sure I get the right information. He goes, I got to spell correctly too now. Yes. I'm like, all right, that was such a good little dig on yourself. You got to kind of capitalize.
Respect.
I can never unfollow Heyman.
The whole thing rest, and he was like, you know what? I'm going to bring this up again.
No, because he knows it's going to follow him everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what, even in like 10 years from now, even when he retires, they're going to bring up Arson Judge. Like it's never going to go away because that's a huge deal because he had the baseball world turning. Like everyone was freaking out. It was like in SpongeBob when his brain was like, where's his name? Where's his name? And everything was on fire. The entire baseball world was running amok because everyone thought the San Francisco Giants just got Aaron Judge and the Yankees now had to like, who's going to take over? What's going to happen? The captain's gone. Oh my God. And he was wrong. And he really turned baseball on its side that day. And that's why it's going to follow him around no matter what. And I'm glad he's joking about it now and owning up to it and having some fun with it, but he's never going to live that down. He's like Nightingale when every time he messes up, people remind him about it.
Yeah, Nightingale can never get out of his own way. Really.
Sunil thinks it's either Seattle or the Dodgers. Salute to Sunil. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah. No, we were discussing the West Coast teams with Yamamoto, but I think the reason I didn't mention a West Coast team is I think on the West Coast they're going to be busy fighting for Ohtani. Ohtani likes the West Coast. The Dodgers, I think, really want to make a statement. I think it's going to be the Dodgers for Ohtani. The only team on the East Coast that really I think would be a big player for Ohtani is if they miss out on Yamamoto. I think the Mets will just pivot right to Ohtani. But with the with Ohtani, because we really have we talk a lot about Yamamoto. But as far as the baseball landscape overall, when it comes to Ohtani, we kind of skirted on this a little bit a few weeks ago, when the offseason first started. How much of his injury going to impact his contract? Or is that going to delay him getting signed? Could he be one of those guys that signed right before spring training, or do you think it's going to be sooner than that? Because I think his contract's going to be very complex, being the fact that he can't pitch this year.
Yeah, there'll be a bunch of incentives in there probably. There might be like I still think he might go and sign like a short-term deal with somebody. Like he might just DH the first year. Maybe he signs a 2-year and then goes back into free agency. If someone wants to take that short-term risk with him, be like, okay, for 1 year we get you as a hitter, and the next year, midway through the season, we get you as a pitcher. This way the investment doesn't go too much. But if it's the Dodgers, like a team like the Cubs might take that short-term investment with Ohtani, or a team like Seattle even. But a team like the Dodgers might say, screw it, we'll give you 10 years and $500+ million. He's going to get paid. Like there's that report that came out that he doesn't want any of his meetings leaked with what teams he's going to, because he's using that against the team. Because if it gets leaked, then it'd be like, why would I trust you? So he's taking this thing very, very seriously. He knows he is probably the best free agent to ever hit the market, if we're being honest here, because of what he does when he's healthy. He's going to get the richest contract in baseball history. He's 2 players in one. This is big, and he knows it, so he's going to treat it like that. So if he wants a short-term deal, he'll get a short-term deal. If he wants a long-term deal, he's going to get it. It's just a matter of who wants to give him the most money, and the Dodgers are obviously a team that could be like, we'll give you whatever it takes. The Mets can do that as well. So it's really all about what Ohtani wants. I think the team just got to be like, what do you want? He controls everything. The teams don't control this. He controls it. He controls everything here. It's a special player.
Yeah, I can see the Mets signing him as a reaction to Yamamoto going to the Yankees.
Yeah.
I could picture that because Cohen will want to make a big headline move. I think that's the headline move.
Cohen will want to flex if he misses out on Yamo.
Exactly. You know he's going to go hard on Yamo. And if Yamo goes to us, then I think the reaction will be Ohtani. Definitely keep an eye out on Cohen. Otherwise, I think the Dodgers make a ton of sense in the situation. West Coast team. Ohtani knows the West Coast very, very well. And he prefers the West Coast because it's obviously closer to Japan. So I think the West Coast or the Mets I think are the options for Ohtani.
Yeah, I think I think Stephen B is on something here. Ohtani would be smart to do a 3-year deal, go back into free agency after proving he's healthy. He wouldn't touch him if he was the Yankees. I wouldn't either. And I said it's not his talent, but it's his talent. He's not going to be able to do both for long, but he's for the rest of his career. But he's going to get paid like he can. And I don't think that the Yankees financially can afford to handcuff themselves to an extravagant long-term contract. I think that the Yankees might want to try to get away from something like that. But when it comes to overpaying, sometimes you have to if you want the best talent. The question I have for you guys and anybody that also was because we really dove really deep into this Monday night. What is your breaking point on Yamamoto where you just say it's too rich of a contract and you pivot somewhere else? Like what's the cap? What's your max of a contract you would give, or what would your contract be?
I'll say it quickly. I don't have a cap.
Okay.
There shouldn't be a max because, as we discussed in the previous episode, the Yankees will make that money back in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. With the Asian market and the excitement that it would generate in the Yankee fan base, and the overseas eyes that would be tuned in to Yankee games, and all the jersey sales, there shouldn't be a cap. I'm saying it. Just offer a buck more than what the Mets offer. Is my way of putting it. It's not for us to put a cap on the Yankees because the Yankees have been putting a cap on themselves for so freaking long now. Basically, since the Ellsbury contract, the Yankees have been putting a cap on themselves because they don't trust themselves in the free agent market, clearly, because they don't want to sign free agents. So apart from Garrett Cole, but other than that, the Yankees have been afraid to go into free agency. Rodon was the first time they made a statement signing since Garrett Cole. And the Yankees don't have much success in free agency. Other than Garrett Cole, Rodon's not worked out. So really the Yankees have been limiting themselves, inhibiting themselves because of Steinbrenner's self-imposed luxury tax threshold. So I think that I think for us to put a cap on it is selling the Yankees short. The Yankees could make that money back in a heartbeat I think within 24 hours, they'll probably make up half that contract. Seriously.
Like Brad said, the Japanese TV deal will pay for the first 3 years alone.
Oh my
but
God.
It's also, it's not so much that, there's got to be a point, like, I'll say, because he'll defend himself and he'll justify what he said, and he'll say, yeah, that's what I said. Li said he would give him 13 years, like 32 million a year.
Okay, that's ridiculous.
Damn, that's like Aaron Judge numbers. I'm not sure about do that.
I said that I would give him 8 years, 240. That's 30 million a year. The other factor with the contract that teams, not just the Yankees, but teams overall, to take into account is the percentage for the posting. Because you got to give 20% of the first 25 million, and then it goes to 17 and a half for the other 25, and that's for the duration, for the contract. So you're looking at an additional $20 to $30 million just for the posting, based on on some of the numbers that are being thrown out there. So that does become that can be a concern as negotiations continue.
I'm on board with NFE and Jonathan here. I think they got the right idea. It's going to exceed 200 million, but it all depends on if they want to jump up the AAV to maybe like 27, 28. Maybe you go to 30. My dad putting 260 over 6 that's insane, because that's far more than Garrett Cole. That's Max Scherzer money, and look where that got the Mets. So if that's the case, then I'm walking at that. And Brad brought up
looking at 43 million a year.
Yeah, that's unbelievable money. So I would probably put a cap in the years at 9, because they didn't go to 10 for Judge. I don't think they go to 10 for Yamamoto. But if you go like 9 for like 225, 230 something, maybe that gets it done. We don't know what he's going to want. We just know it's going to be over 200 million. And if the Yankees do have a cap, then Brad brought up Imanaga. He's getting posted, I think, sometime this week. He's going to be about a week after. His deadline is a week after Yamamoto's, and he's very good as well. So the Yankees are going to be heavily involved on both of those guys, I think. If they can't get Yamamoto, I wouldn't mind pivoting to Imanaga, but I think they know the number. I think Yamamoto knows the number. We can't forget that he is only 25, so you got to pay a lot of money for this guy. But you also can't – I don't think anyone's going to exceed 35, 40 million for him. I think that'd be a little crazy, because he hasn't pitched, even though the skill gap is certainly closed, he still hasn't pitched in the major league. So if you're going to put 40 million a year into a guy that has not pitched an inning in the major leagues, that's tough to ask a team to do. So I think he'll get closer to 30 million per year. Maybe a team goes 31. Oh, he said 8. Okay, put your glasses on there, because that was nuts. Even 8 for 260 is kind of crazy, but
that's a little easier to swallow. But
yeah,
I think 29
million might be the max.
I'd probably be at the 29 AAV. I'd be pretty comfortable with that over like 7 years.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Yeah. I think the Yankees would certainly take that on, and they probably wouldn't. Probably don't think they would be regretting it, because they have a lot of money coming off the books next year as well, and they can always find a way to move some people around. I think they want to move Stanton too, because those Cashman comments don't give me any reason to believe they want to hold on to him. But I don't know what they're going to do with the money thing. But they can afford him. We know that. We know they can. So if they got to push that budget up a little bit, they got to do it.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much a money thing. I think it's their annual budget of what they want to spend, like what their number is. That's going to be the factor. So if we're also looking at getting Soto with his arbitration, that's another 30 million a year you're adding to the payroll. And as much as we say, payroll be damned, as the Yankees, it is a factor. Especially with the stupid revenue sharing. How much money are we going to keep sending to other teams to just keep in their pocket? The Pirates aren't reinvesting their money. The A's don't reinvest their money.
Pirates are a little bit. The Pirates are a little bit. They extended Reynolds. They're trying to extend their own guys. They're building a pretty decent team over there. I think they're going to attract some more free agents in the next couple of years. Baltimore should spend more money. The Athletics are an absolute disgrace, so I don't really count them. And you got teams like Colorado. They tried when they gave Chris Bryant a contract after trading Arenado, because that makes sense. But I don't know what the hell they're doing over there. But Oakland shouldn't even be in. Oakland should be penalized for what they've been doing. No one should give them any sort of money. They're so bad. It's so disappointing what they're doing.
Great point. There should be penalties. There should be penalties for spending absolutely nothing. It's a disgrace to the sport. It's a disgrace to competition. It's a disgrace to the fans. They obviously don't care about their fans, but someone should. And there should be penalties. There has to be something in place in baseball to ensure that there is a minimum base level of competitiveness. Base level, base level. I'm not even saying anything massive. Just don't all outright just get rid of everyone and basically play a single A team, and then ask your fans to pay major league prices to sit and watch that. That's a disgrace. It's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to the sport. It's an embarrassment to baseball. It's just straight up embarrassing.
Yeah, I just think it's curious to see what the Yankees would do as far as how much do they want to spend? How much do they want to go over the 290, 300 payroll mark? Are they willing to go into that next bracket? Are they willing to go into the Cohen bracket to win? I haven't seen it yet. I have to be proven wrong before I have faith that Hal, not really so much Cashman, that Hal is willing to just say, you know what, last year was an embarrassment. We shouldn't have had to celebrate that we kept the winning streak going with the season record. We should have been celebrating a lot further. I think he got embarrassed, and I think he's going to go balls out. But how far do those balls come out? Is he going into the Cohen tax?
I don't want to see his ball.
Yeah, let's put the ball talk there. Come on. Enough with the I don't think that's why I don't think we get Soto. Because if we get Yamamoto, we're not going to pay Soto 30 plus.
And then re-sign him.
Right. So that's why I think Torres is going to get traded. Because if you get, let's say they get Bellinger and Yamamoto, and you trade Torres, it kind of almost puts you in a better, and you can still make another trade with like the Cardinals or something to get another bat in there. And you're not going to be adding too much of the payroll, because I don't know what the number is right now. But I think we're below 200 million right now. But if you get Yamamoto and Bellinger for like almost 60 million a year, like combined, that puts you 250, 255, something like that. You trade Torres, the number is far less than what people think it's going to be. So they let some guys go that aren't going to be going to arbitration. I think they can make this work. That's why I'm leaning towards the Bellinger Yamamoto combo, because I just don't know if the Yankees want to push the budget for Soto and Yamamoto. Because I know they want both of them, but I think it's going to be very tough for them to do financially and then be able to add elsewhere on the roster. Although those two alone help this team out tremendously, but they still have a couple of other holes they have to attack. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But that's why I really do think Gleyber Torres is getting traded. I just don't know when. But it's got to happen soon if they plan on making some of these big signings.
Yeah, they're going to need to they can't afford to give him another, the final year of arbitration. I think that'll handcuff him a little bit. Not drastically, but enough where they might hesitate to do something else.
Well, the A's will be the Las Vegas A's from now on anyway, so we'll see what happens with that. It seems to be that's the recurring theme now. If you're in Oakland, you're going to move to Las Vegas. But I'm really glad that FJ brought this up. You heard Zach Britton's comments. That should be a huge wake up call. For those that didn't see it, I'll read it out. Zach Britton on his retirement day. When I was with the Orioles, you were intimidated to play them being the Yankees. They had so much talent, the way they carried themselves. You didn't want to go to New York because they were so imposing. And I feel like we lost a little of that when I was there. How do you get back to that? For me, with the Yankees budget, they should just get the best players. They have to some extent, but really building powerhouses to make it a place people want to play. I remember hearing people say, "Oh, I don't want to go to New York," and it blew my mind. That was the most eye-opening thing. Talking to opposing players and them saying it's just not the same coming in there. It's not an intimidating place. When I was a young player, the pinnacle was to play for the Yankees because they were so good. I don't know the one thing to get them back, but those older teams used to beat you in so many ways. They were so well-rounded. It wasn't, oh, let's just keep it in the ballpark. They could single you to death, steal a base, walk. I think they've got to find a way to get back to that. I'll start with Uncle T. What were your thoughts on what we were saying? Do you think he has a point? And do you like the fact that on his retirement day, he's talking smack about the Yankees?
I thought it was necessary. You have that stage. It said to me that he really appreciated his time in the Yankees and wanted to see, while he was with them, get back to that threat. What's going on, 19 Con Man? How's it going? It's really telling because we've been saying, I started saying this last week, like, who wants to come here? Who wants to come to this mess? Which is why we needed structural change. And here it is in a different, variety of words, Britain's saying the same thing. The Yankees are just broken. They've gotten too analytical. They worry too much about finances, and they've just completely stopped being who they were, which is why this is such a significant offseason. This is the make or break for them. This is either going to bring the Yankees back to glory or just completely, have them become irrelevant. They're just going to be another good team in the AL. They're not going to be the standard.
Rob?
I think, necessary is a good word. I don't think he meant any ill intent towards it. I don't want anyone to be like, screw you, you weren't that good, because he was really good for us. I like Britton a lot. Before his injury, he really was a lights out pitcher. But he's right, because you think about the Yankees in the 90s and even the early 2000s, even though they weren't winning every year, you didn't want to play the Yankees. They had Jeter and Posada and Matsui and A-Rod and Sheffield, Giambi. These lineups were scary, and you didn't want to go there because the old stadium was a freaking it was an absolute shit show going there because the fans treated you like the enemy. And opposing players didn't want to deal with that. But now it's a lot more tame. I'm not going to blame the fans for that. I'm going to blame, the pricing on the seats behind home plate and all that crap. But the team itself also doesn't give off that we want to kick the crap out of you every day aura. Even when the Yankees didn't win in the 2000s, they still had that we're going to beat you. And they were winning the East every year. Right. They still won the East every year. They were still the team to beat. They just couldn't get past the first round of the playoffs. And then we got back to that in 2009 because the Yankees beat the crap out of you every single game. After the month of April passed, they couldn't beat them. You just couldn't beat the Yankees and you didn't want to play them. And we got away from that. Even though we've had some good teams, we've gotten away from that. They have really good players. We know we got Judge, we got Cole, but who else is really intimidating you? We got some good guys. Torres is a good player, but he's not intimidating another team. You look at the lineups from the early 2000s and from the 90s, that was an intimidating starting lineup. Everybody can beat you in a different way. Now it's all right, well, if we avoid Judge and don't give Stanton a beach ball over the middle, we'll be okay. And you saw that, especially this past year. The Yankees were the second worst team in baseball offensively. So I think Britton is doing something because he really did like his time here, and he wants to see the Yankees get back to being the Yankees, because baseball is better when the Yankees are the Yankees. Look at the playoff ratings this year. Look at the least watched World Series. If the Yankees were in the postseason, the numbers would have been higher up. It's just a fact. It's not me being a fan. That's just a fact, because every time we're in the playoffs, the numbers are higher. The Yankees need to be the Yankees for the Yankees' sake, but also for baseball's sake. And I think Zach Britton knows that. So maybe it's just him trying to light a fire under some people that need a fire lit under their ass, and being one of them being our general manager and also the owner. So maybe they take this as a wake-up call, go out and get Yamamoto, go get Soto. If you got to raise that budget a little bit, then raise it. You can print money. You're the New York Yankees. You'll get it right back anyway. So if that's the case, go do it. And I'm glad that Britton said it, because I think they needed that kick in the ass.
No, I agree, man. I'm really glad he said it too. Everything he said is straight up facts. So to call Spence here says, I don't think that there's. I don't really think there's a narrative per se.
No, I think Britton spoke for himself.
Britton's not completely wrong, but I think he raises overtures that aren't completely accurate. I mean, I think that they are accurate, because he's saying he spoke to other players. So that's not just his opinion. He's been canvassing opinion around baseball, and there's a lot of people that are saying, I don't want to go to the Yankees. I want to play in New York, whatever. And it blows his mind. And he's trying to figure out why these people aren't want to sign for the Yankees anymore. So my personal opinion is that whenever the Yankees fail, which has basically been every year since 2009, they and especially lately, they use excuses a lot. Brian Cashman, Hal Steinbrenner, Aaron Boone. When Aaron Boone infamously said, "Oh, the league is catching up to us," when they'd already lapped us, and then Brian Cashman blaming. It was Aaron Boone blaming the weather, and Brian Cashman blaming injuries on an annual basis. It's not just us that hears these words, and it's not just the media that hears these words, and it's not just the Yankee players that hears these words. It's the rest of baseball are hearing these words too. There was an element of intimidation. Even if the Yankees did not win a World Series, there was an intimidation in the winter around the league. They'd be like, oh shit, what is George going to do now? Right? George is going to do something. George is going to go in and he's going to sign the best free agent, because that's what the Yankees are going to do. There was that intimidation. The Yankees had that intimidation all year long, all 162, and especially the postseason, right? That's just a fact. They did. There was an intimidation, because there was an element of, even if the Yankees weren't playing, they were like, what big move are the Yankees going to do? Is Roger Clemens going to come out of retirement? Is the Yankees going to go in a free agent? Like Mark Teixeira. You know what I mean? It's like there was just that aura about them that we don't accept mediocrity. We are going to be the best, whether you like it or not. That was the mantra of the Yankees. When you looked in the Yankee dugout, if you looked in the opposition dugout as an opposition player or fan, you would see Joe Torre sitting there, and you would see a whole line of Hall of Famers, right? Whole line of them. Or even 2009. You had Joe Girardi, and then a whole line of freaking Hall of Famers sitting there. A-Rod, Jeter, freaking you name it, and they're all sitting there on the bench. The craziest, deepest lineup you'd ever see.
Well, that's what, like when, a few things. When Britton, I don't think Britton's received any hate or ire towards what he said. I think it was amongst the fans that I've seen on social media are applauding that he spoke out.
Yeah.
I know D-Rod brought up that, it's funny that he brought everything up after retiring. A lot of players do that. You're not going to, if you're looking for a job, you're not going to go trash another organization. That's just poor taste. And And I really think, like I said, I think Britton really enjoyed his time here and wanted to be a part of that recapturing of being a threat. And I think it's not now that his career is over, he's looking back as it's a missed opportunity on his resume to help be a part of the resurrection. So,
well, that's my point. It's like the
yeah,
Yankees were more obsessed with excuses.
and that's a big problem. But and you pointed it out also. And I agree with this point. In the offseason, teams they were afraid to go against George because there was no way George was. If the Yankees were in on a player, teams looked the other way because they're like, well, if George wants him, I'm just wasting my time because what George wants, George gets. That's gone also. So the Yankees are in a serious identity crisis. Mm-hmm. I think that's the one thing we could all agree on. They have no identity right now.
Well, Britton makes a great point because he was re-signed after 2018, and that was the last time the Yankees had a chance to bring back that aura when they could have had some combination of Machado, Harper, and Corbin. Even though Corbin turned out to be a disastrous contract at the time, he was looked at as what would be a huge signing. So imagine if they did go and get Machado and Harper like everyone thought they were going to do. Mm-hmm. The aura would have been back because it would have been like, that's the Yankees of old. Now you got to line up with Machado and Judge and Stanton and Harper and Sanchez, who was still at the peak of his career at that point. And that would have been an intimidating lineup. And you saw Gleyber Torres, who just came off of a rookie of the year type of season. And they could have done that the year before after they got Stanton. They could have traded for Cole, then followed that up with the offseason of Machado and Harper. And they could have brought back that aura just like that. And that's why people keep going back to the Harper signing and the missed signing and the missed Machado move and all that stuff, because they could have done that. And guess what? Their payroll would not be much different than what it is today if they had just done those moves. So that's why I think what Zach Britton said is very important, because they had a chance to do it, but the Yankees didn't do it. And now they make excuses like it's the roof, it's the fans, it's the weather, like Donald mentioned, and it's the grass or whatever. Oh, we can't use certain things to make the pitcher's hands sticky again. They make every excuse in the book. And instead of just pointing at themselves, we know why they aren't the Yankees of old, because they don't want them. They don't try to be. They can be. They absolutely can be. Those players were begging to be Yankees, and they just was like, we got Brett Gardner. We don't need you. We got Andujar. We don't need you. And you got players that want to play for your team. This is not that long. It's 4 or 5 years ago that we had two of the better players in baseball that wanted to be Yankees, and you basically told them no. So that's what it's a very important thing, because Britton is saying that, the aura is gone. I don't think it's completely faded, but they could bring it back. If you get Juan Soto, you get Yamamoto, or if it's Bellinger and Yamamoto, you get a really good team. You put the eyes back on baseball, because FJ said it, when the Yankees are there, love them or hate them, people watch them. People, they hate them, they want to see them lose. Just like the Patriots in football. When they were winning every year, you watch because you wanted to see, are they going to get beat? Are the Giants going to upset them? Are the Falcons going to beat them? Who's going to beat the Patriots? And people watched. And when they lost, people celebrated. When the Yankees lose, if the Yankees lose, what do you see on Twitter? Ha ha ha! Yankees suck, and they're chanting Yankees suck at hockey games. Okay, the Yankees they're so hated. People love to hate the Yankees. You got Mets fans with the words "Yankees suck" tattooed on them. They got the word Yankees tattooed on them. So think about that for a second. The Yankees are baseball. And I know that sounds like a homer thing to say, but they are baseball. So go back to being the Yankees. That's all we're asking you to do. We're not asking you to spend $900 million, but you have everything available to you to go be the Yankees again, bring back that aura, and strike fear into every single other team in baseball that we are not going to get pushed over anymore, because you shouldn't be. You're the richest team in the freaking world, and you should not, or one of the richest teams, but you should not be getting pushed around by the Tampa Bay Rays and the Baltimore Orioles of the world. It just should not be happening. It should not ever happen. As good as those teams are, we should be much better than them, because we have so much more at our disposal.
what were the two obvious moves? It was Harper and it was Seager in free agency over the last few years that were just so obvious that you didn't even need. It was a no-brainer. You'd read the MLB.com free agents to be where they predicted they would go, and Seager to the Yankees was just like so obvious at the time. We didn't have a shortstop. We didn't have anybody that could bat from the left side. You know what I mean? It was just so freaking obvious, and they didn't do it because Cashman tries to be the smartest guy in the room. That's his thing. He's like, he doesn't want to make the obvious move. Bryce Harper didn't even have a discussion with him, right? Even though that was so obvious. It was a complete no-brainer. There's no brain required. And that's what I'm saying, man. There's this aura that's gone. You look at the Yankee bench now, and it's Aaron Judge and kind of a bunch of veterans and everyone else, right? And as Rob says, if you pitch around Aaron Judge and you don't throw Stanton the fastball down the middle when he's hot, you can throw him whatever he wants when he's not hot because you'll miss anyway. But aside from those two guys, who scares you? Gleyber Torres, not really scares you. He's good, but that's it. So I'm sorry, man. That's not the Yankees. That's not the Yankees. The Yankees got away from themselves. They've fallen off. And then you look at the manager. You got Aaron Boone, who excuses everything. He excuses poor performance. He excuses lack of hustle. He makes poor decisions like pitching to Ohtani, and then covers it up by saying, "Oh, 9 times out of 10 he doesn't hit a home run." I'll never forget that, honestly. And then there's obviously what Pete says, where remember when he said he got bullied by an umpire. That's the crazy stuff. You're looking at a manager who's just so affable. He's just so freaking nice all the time. I mean, there's no aura with the Yankees. Like, if I was to go to a team, the first thing I look at is the management. Who's the manager? Who do I want to be my manager? I want someone who has a little bit of something about him. You know what I mean? And there's no intimidation factor with Aaron Boone. There's no intimidation factor with Brian Cashman. He looked desperate in his off-season press conference. That's the only thing I could say. He looked desperate. It looked like the walls were closing in on him, and he was just firing aimlessly. And everyone was taking cheap shots. And now he's trying to cover his tracks. So he's already doing an apology tour with Yamamoto / Stanton's agent. Yeah. So he's not dumb. He knows he said some stupid shit, and now he's trying to backtrack a little bit, and now he's blaming the media for twisting his words, or I'm surprised that this is becoming a conversation. Dude, you freaking said it. So we're just looking at a team that looks desperate, that make excuses, that this past season would never ever be tolerated, ever.
I want to know.
Steinbrenner has come back, and now he's, instead of all these big changes he's promised, he's done nothing. Brad Ausmus is his big move. So, as a bench coach, so like Zach Britton's right. There's no aura with the Yankees anymore, right? And don't ask other players. Look at the Yankee fan base. Look at the fan base. The fan base, 100% of the fan base thinks Brian Cashman is a war criminal. Right? There's not one member of the fan base that actually wants to get Cashman to be retained for the rest of his contract. I'd be shocked, right? Well, Aaron Boone, I would say 75% of Yankee fans can't stand Aaron Boone, right? The other 25% barely tolerate him, right? That says a lot, right? And then you canvass the rest of the fan base. What do they think of this roster? Apart from Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole, who are we excited about? It's a bit up in the air, right? That says it all. So it's not just other players that don't think there's an aura here. Ask the fan base, right? We've been disrespected on a daily basis by our own management because they blame us when they don't succeed. They say that our booing or whatever is or the expectations that we set is the problem. No, you're the problem for blaming our expectations when you set the same expectations at the start of the season. When you say we're always looking for a championship and then you barely scratch 500, you haven't made those expectations. You blame us? No. So Zach Britton's right. He's just verbalizing everything that the Yankee fan is saying.
Yeah, it's look. The reason that his comments became so viral with Yankee Twitter, because we all agree with him. He didn't say anything that was out of line, anything that could be really nothing he said could be challenged. To the point where it's like, you know what, Britain, he was out of line for saying no, he wasn't. He's a former player that was, like I said, and you heard what I said before. He said what he said. He stayed, and every Yankee fan is applauding it. What does that tell you? That's got to be a wake-up call. It really has to. They can't keep doing this, roundabout, half-assed offseason, a insufficient trade deadline, and think that they're a fully operational Death Star. It doesn't work that way. They got to do something, because it's not just the fans that are saying stuff. It's not the media, with their speculations and their comments. They're asking Cashman tough questions for a change. But now you got former players that are going, God, you lost your identity. You can get this back, no problem. All you got to do is, like we've been saying, spend smarter. You don't have to spend the most. Just spend smarter, because that's where they've gotten away from. They're not going after the free agents of need. They're going after, we already have 5 shortstops, but this is the biggest shortstop on the market, so let's sign him and we'll figure everything else out. Meanwhile, we have no outfield. You know what I mean? They got to be aggressive with the positions of need. That will get the Yankees on the right track to regain their status. Because when the Yankees have a threat 1 through 9, they're unstoppable. We saw it a couple of years ago where we were comparing them to 98. Everything was clicking. You had everybody in the right spot. And then as soon as Cashman started changing things up, they rewrote the analytical books and everything fell apart. We almost lost the fucking division that year. So we let it get so bad where the Rays were just, that Rays series in September could have cost us the division. We would have had that wild card game. So they have the ability to be dominant. Just let the players do what they have to do. Give Boone the right players to manage. Maybe he'll he's going to make bad decisions. Believe me, he ain't perfect. But we saw when you give him the right tools to work with, it builds itself. And he can just sit back and just take the credit.
It goes beyond personnel for me. I just want the Yankees to actually act like the Yankees internally, and it goes beyond personnel for me, man. The way that they manage games, the way that they excuse the inexcusable, that all needs to change. That all needs to change. So I'm not convinced that even if the Yankees send out a whole team of all-stars that they'd win anyway, because it's Aaron Boone. And I've not seen anything from Aaron Boone that would convince me that they're going to win a World Series. Just the way that he is. When your manager defends the indefensible, which he did all season long. Oh, we're just right around the corner, guys. Bowers, we're just right around the corner. Just you wait, guys. tomorrow we're going to be incredible, right? We got no hit today.
Oh,
Tomorrow's going to be fantastic. And it was just the same shit, daily basis. That, for me, is the Yankee aura, right? It starts with the management, not just the personnel. We can fix personnel, but the Yankees defend the indefensible. And that's why the fan base is tuned out. That's why we're pissed off. That's why we're disenfranchised, right? So for me, it actually starts from the top. The Yankees need to be the Yankees from the top. If they say they have certain expectations of making the postseason, they need to follow that up. And if they don't make reach those expectations, make changes. Don't be afraid to. The only organization that I know in the sport which is afraid to make any changes, and that is why Zach Britton is talking about this aura. The Yankees don't have the aura anymore. When your owner is afraid to hold people to an account, any account, when your manager is afraid to hold anyone to account, and when Brian Cashman is more worried about his own job security, that's why the Yankee aura is what it is right now.
Rob, before we sign off, you want to give your final take on this?
I said what I needed to say.
All right. So that is going to do it for us today. Tomorrow, I hope everybody does enjoy their time with their families. It is Thanksgiving, so eat up, watch your football, have a good time, and we will be back on Friday. And Friday will also be a special with an open panel. So clear your schedule, come hang out with us on Good Friday for a little while. And as always, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe, share this video out. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell the stranger on the corner, tell your Uber driver for all I can. Just, share this channel out. And as I always say, wear those pinstripes of pride and play hard.